Did you actually know that prioritizing people makes you more successful? If people actually form the bedrock of your personal ambitions, whether in the workplace or business or whatever, creative, ingenious ideas will come to you. If your pursuit of purpose is driven primarily by achievement or validation, you might accomplish a lot, but you will end up with a deep, hollow feeling of dissatisfaction. Hello, this is Olaomi Brigwe. It's season 2, and all season long, we're talking about purposeful living. Today, I'm going to be talking about prioritizing people above results or personal gain. If you want to fulfill your purpose, if you want to wake up every day knowing that your life counts, if you want to look back over any period of your life, whether it is a week, a month, a year, a decade, and so on, and you can look back and say, wow, I have actually impacted humanity. I've made giant strides in terms of me feeling like I'm fulfilling purpose. You cannot put aside this rule that I'm going to be talking about today. And it's very easy to do. It's very easy for us to prioritize achievements, results, whatever it is, above people, which is a conundrum in itself because purpose is all about serving humanity. So when we put the humanity part of it aside, then what's left? We're just driven by our own goals and ambitions. And it is one of the reasons why people may look like they're talented, they're doing so many things. But if you check their lives, if you ask them about the state of their mind, they don't feel fulfilled. They have all the results, they have all the trappings of success, but they don't have the joy, they don't have the happiness, they don't have that sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Putting people first, and that includes yourself, above results, above personal gain. So I want to start off by talking about what does it actually mean to put people first. Now, first of all, I want to clarify that I'm not talking about people pleasing. I'm not talking about living a life that has no boundaries, where you're always doing stuff for people. You never take care of yourself. You always say yes to people, even when you say no. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about prioritizing the well-being of people above material things, including money, including achievements like, oh, I'm going to throw people under the bus in order for me to get that promotion at work. That's what I'm talking about. So when I say putting people first, when I say prioritizing people above these things, what do I mean? I mean, first of all, you prioritize the well-being of a human being above everything else, above your own personal ambitions. If you're going for something, let's use work as an example, and the thing you're going for, the promotion you're going for, the result you're going for, the target that you're going for is going to end up harming somebody, and you are aware of that. Now, sometimes we're not aware, but this is going to cause harm to somebody, but you sacrifice the well-being of that person in pursuit of your goal or your ambition or whatever it is. That's what I mean. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is making decisions. So what does it mean to put people first? Making decisions that are in the best interests of people, even if it's not always easy or convenient. In other words, at different points in your life, you will be required to sacrifice your own personal comfort in order to help somebody or in order to contribute to the life of somebody. I'm talking about a life of purpose now. So if somebody wants to live a self-centered life where they're living for themselves, then I'm not speaking to you. I can't be, because you're not interested in purpose. You're not interested in serving humanity. You just want literally to get as much as you can and advance yourself as much as you can, regardless of how much blood is shed on the way. I'm not talking about people like that. I'm talking to somebody that genuinely has compassion for people. And if you're a Christian, if you're watching me or listening to me, that is you, because we know that the nature of God, don't believe what people have said. I mean, a lot of things are going on in the world today. God has actually been given a really bad reputation, so many misrepresentations of his character and his real nature. But the true nature of God is love. And that love is compassion. So when we actually manifest God's true nature, that compassion is going to shine through. So I'm talking to people who genuinely have this heart for people. That's who I'm talking to. And I believe you're that person. So I'm saying if you're that kind of person, there will be nudgings in your heart at different points for you to sacrifice your own personal comfort, your own personal gain in order for somebody to get ahead in life. That's the second thing. And the third thing I mean by prioritizing people or putting people first is treating people with respect and compassion and valuing their contributions. Now, that one sounds a bit unusual because you might be thinking, how does valuing somebody's contribution account to you putting them first? So, for example, if somebody comes with quote unquote a stupid idea, you think that's a stupid idea, and you're very quick to dismiss that idea, that contribution they have made to that meeting. Now, here's how you have not put people, and when I say people, not just that person, but humanity in general first. It is this. You have not believed in the value that God has placed inside that person. You have dismissed the value that God has placed inside them. No idea is ever stupid. Haven't you noticed that? Because anything that somebody suggests is literally their own perspective. And their perspective is always a way to contribute to your own perspective. Because you are you and they are them, you can never ever have their perspective, no matter how closely related you are. Even if you think you had all the same experiences from childhood up until that point, their experience is still their experience, their perspective is their perspective, and it's very different to yours. So no idea is stupid. So when I value how much God has placed inside every human being, I value their contributions. Even if the idea to me at that point in time may seem like, what is this person talking about? Because I know they're valuable, because I know there's something important and of great worth inside them, I would at least listen. If it doesn't rhyme with what I am looking to do at that point in time, I would not dismiss it or discard it. I will simply file it away as saying, okay, this doesn't quite align with what I'm looking at this point in time, but it's still a valuable contribution. So that is what I mean by putting people first. Next, I want to talk about 3 powerful reasons why you should cultivate. You and me, every single one of us should cultivate this habit of putting people first. Why we should not take on the mentality of those that would sacrifice people for results or sacrifice the well-being of people or their relationships for their personal ambitions. And I have 3 reasons that I want to share with you. The first reason is putting people first is the right thing to do. And it's actually the foundation of Christianity. I'm not talking about the brand of Christianity that has become quite popular nowadays, where love has been completely removed from the equation and replaced with judgment, where people quote unquote say they are Christians, but their propensity is to judge first before trying to understand. That propensity is to push people down than to lift them up. That propensity is to build walls as opposed to actually being inclusive. That's not the brand of Christianity that I'm talking about. I'm talking about true Christianity that Jesus Christ modeled for us when he walked the face of this earth. Have you ever met any human being that was so resistant to putting up walls like Jesus was? That was why he constantly was against the Pharisees, because the Pharisees just put up walls that shut people out. And he kept saying, no, you're not supposed to be shutting people out. You should know better because you're experts of the law. And the law teaches that God is all about human beings, about caring for human beings, about putting human beings at the top of the food chain. Jesus was all about showing that human beings are precious. So precious, the Bible says in John 3:16 that he gave his only begotten son, that God gave his only begotten son. So precious to God are human beings that Jesus Christ laid down his life to redeem us out of sin, out of death, and all of that, so that we could have a relationship with God. Can you see that? So as far as God is concerned, human beings are at the top of the food chain. There is no Christianity outside of loving humanity. Any brand of Christianity that does not embody loving humanity, regardless of how different they are to you, as long as they're a human being, that Christianity is false Christianity, and it is purely religion. You cannot claim to be a Christian and then you would actually champion segregating or champion putting other people down in order for you to advance your own cause. There's no such thing like that in Christianity. So that is the first and probably the most important reason. The nature of God is love, and that love is meant to be expressed towards all of humanity, regardless of who the person is, whether they're on your level, whether they're above you, whether they're quote unquote beneath you, whether they are black, blue, yellow, whether they're different from you or whether they're the same, whether they believe the same things as you or they don't believe the same things as you. So anybody that does not have this idea or mentality that you must put people first, that person cannot fulfill purpose. Because as I mentioned earlier, purpose is releasing what God has put inside you for the service of humanity. That's literally what purpose is. Anything outside of that is not purpose. So somebody can say, "Oh, I'm doing this and I'm literally going to achieve all these things," but we can't. The amount of blood you have shed on the way, no, that's not purpose. That's not purpose. Think about Cain and Abel. Cain slew his brother. He killed his brother to advance himself. And was God pleased? Was God like, "Oh, amazing. Do you know what? You are advancing in this, your career, in this ambition that you have. So I'm going to applaud you." No, God said, no. And he cast him out. The same thing with the man whose grounds brought forth plenty. So this guy had advanced significantly. He had achieved tremendous results, but he did not put people at the center of his ambition. He was just like, "It's all for me. It's all for me." And God said, "You know what? It's time for you to literally go home because you have no use to me." Because purpose, the reason why you were put here on this earth, is the service of humanity. So the second reason is putting people first is essential to building strong relationships and communities. Any relationship or community that is rooted in self-centeredness will eventually collapse. Think about a marriage that is rooted in self-centeredness. The husband is all about himself. The wife is all about himself. How is that home going to stand? How is that marriage going to stand? They are divided. Everybody's pursuing their own thing. In fact, the biggest reason why marriages collapse is when a couple gets to the point where each person is just doing their own thing. They're just pursuing their own thing. That marriage can never last, because the whole point of marriage is you're laying down your life for each other. That is what marriage is. You're laying down your life for each other, and that results in multiplication and advancement for both, because you are now one. So think about any community. Think about an environment, a work environment where everybody is just all for their own thing. That's a toxic environment where people don't care about each other. They don't care about the next person. The team leader does not care about his team. All he cares about is results. He doesn't take time to find out what is going on in the lives of his team. If they're having trouble or in some kind of fix or a jam, he still expects them to show up and deliver, because it's like, no, it's all about the bonus at the end of the year. I must get my bonus. Prioritizing money, for example, above people. So that kind of team is going to be toxic. People are going to increasingly stab themselves in the back in order to get ahead. So in order for you, if you're thinking, "Oh, I want to build deeper, stronger relationships, I want to connect with people on a deeper level," you have to first of all become the kind of person that takes a personal interest in people, in the person, be interested in the person, demonstrate love. Love has to be the foundation of everything we do in order for us to actually build cohesive relationships, cohesive communities. That's the second reason why we should prioritize people above personal gain, any level of personal gain. The third one is putting people first is actually the key to living a fulfilling life. I mentioned this at the start of this episode, that someone can be doing amazingly well by the world standards, by everybody's standards. This guy has progressed from senior manager to CEO in 2 years. However, right? And let me even add to all of that. His salary has 10x. He's now he has this bonus, that. He has this title, and he's doing extremely well. But at no point in that journey has it been about people. At no point in that journey has it been about, "Oh, the reason why we want to grow this company is so that we can serve our customers better." That person is not going to have any kind of personal satisfaction. They have the results, But the thing that really infuses your soul with satisfaction, that joy, it can only come from serving humanity. God has reserved a part of your soul for that. If it's missing, then no matter how much this person advances, they're always going to feel discontent. They're always going to feel like something is missing. They're always going to feel like I'm making all this money, I'm doing all these things, but I still don't feel satisfied. I still don't feel fulfilled. Think about the celebrity culture where people would literally sell their soul for success. And they have all the trappings of success, the fame, the money, and all of that, the respect. But you hear stories about how somebody that has all of that still ends up taking their own life. And you wonder, but you have everything. I mean, my heart goes out because the thing is, it's because people have been missing from that equation. Yes, they're doing everything they can to polish their skill and their craft and to become excellent and all of that with their craft, but people have been removed out of the equation. And a lot of times, the reason why that happens is, as a celebrity, they're actually they have, I suppose, to be shielded away. Because if somebody steps out and says, you know what, I just want to go and help people, paparazzi will not let them rest. So they live these very sheltered, isolated lives that just starts to eat at their soul. And this is why people that you feel like, oh my goodness, this person has everything, why would they take their own life? That's why the people element is missing. And it's easy to get sucked into the whole purpose thing, forgetting that it's about people. If your pursuit of purpose is driven primarily by achievement or validation, you might accomplish a lot, but you will end up with a deep, hollow feeling of dissatisfaction. Okay. Now, I want to move on to talking about the benefits of putting people first, of prioritizing people first, because I may take it for granted, and I don't want to take it for granted that you completely agree that what I'm saying is true. Somebody may be listening to me and say, do you know, put it who first? No, it's me first, me first, me first. And I don't care about people as long as I get what I want, as long as I get ahead in life. No, I'm hoping to be able to present a new perspective so that if somebody by any chance is thinking like that, I know, do you know what? It doesn't matter if I throw people under the bus, it means they're weak. And if they're weak, it means they should be, trodden upon and all that. Then they should try and toughen up so that they can get these kind of results too. So there's some benefits that come with prioritizing people above results, above personal gain. The first one is, did you actually know that prioritizing people makes you more successful? It actually multiplies your success. A lot of people don't know that. And a lot of people don't know that the reason why they've become stagnant in that career or in that marriage is because they're not putting people first. The reason why that marriage has become like a chokehold is because the husband and the wife, the two people are attacking each other. They're not actually trying to lay down their lives for each other. They're constantly finding faults with each other. And when you get to that point, you literally suck the life out of that thing. It cannot move forward. The same thing within a team. If people are constantly backbiting and trying to trip other people up, what kind of culture do you think will be created within that team? It's a culture where people will never share things. If they have ideas, they will never share it with anybody else. They say, no, let's go and steal my idea. And how on earth is that team as a whole meant to move forward? That team will end up underperforming. And even if one person has a breakout season and they have that culture, it's only a matter of time before that thing literally comes back to bite them in the butt, because they're going to go higher and they'll realize that, oh, actually, in order for me to go even further, I need to learn to put people first. So the first thing is, it actually makes you more successful. Studies have shown that companies with a strong focus on social responsibility tend to outperform their competitors financially and across board. Give and it shall be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. That's what the Bible says. It's counterintuitive because you might think that, oh, if I give, then I'm basically being depleted. No, it's the seed principle. Everything you give never leaves your life. It just leaves your hand in order to come back as a harvest. So if you put people first, and remember who is at the top of the food chain, people. So if you invest in somebody and if it looks like you actually are taking a step back, by investing in that person. Somebody comes to ask you and you say, they want to go and present something, and you have an idea and give it to them and say, oh, thank you very much. And they use it in their presentation. And you're like, oh my goodness, they took my idea, or that was the same idea I was going to use. You may feel like, oh my goodness, I'm depleted. No. The law of sowing and reaping cannot be broken. It says, as long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest time will never cease. So you don't worry about the person that seems to have stolen your idea. Don't decide that I'm never again helping anybody again after this one. If you behave like that, the seed you have, that one idea you have, is all you're going to have. But when you understand the way this principle works, when you sow, you see that a seed that actually benefited somebody, there's a harvest that's going to come back to you. There's a harvest of benefit that is going to come back to you. And people that are uber successful and fulfilled, this is how they live their life. Individuals who are altruistic, who are service oriented, they literally achieve their goals faster than a lot of people that just want to hoard. They live happier lives, more fulfilled lives. They're the ones that literally promotions come and hunt them down. Sit down and think about what I'm saying. Look at people in your environment that are like that are always eager to help, that are always eager to contribute to other people, that are all about people. And if you sit down and watch their lives, you realize that a lot of times the results or the promotions that other people are chasing after, it just seems to gravitate towards them. That's because it's a law. It really is a law. So enough of this throwing people under the bus, trying to get ahead, but sacrificing human beings on the altar of your own personal ambition. It is counterproductive. Think about Cain and Abel. I'll refer back to that. Cain thought by killing Abel, he would be the favored one. But what did it do? It actually set him back for all of his life, that he couldn't even go into the presence of God again. The very thing that he wanted, that he thought, if I sacrifice, I shed the blood of this person and I'll get it, the very thing he wanted, he was banished from it forever. That's how it works. So the more you put people first, the more you make it your priority to invest in the well-being of people, success will find you. No matter where you're hiding, you may be the quietest person on the team. And I'm talking from experience. You may be the quietest person on the team. If your goal is to make sure that people flourish, that results are gotten, and you invest in that, even if you're the youngest, most junior person on that team, it's only a matter of time before somebody somewhere will spot you and they will promote you. Think about Joseph. Joseph was given audience with Pharaoh because he solved the problem of somebody that was in the prison with him. Two people were looking sad, and he thought, why are you looking sad? Can I help? That's putting people first. He could have thought, you know what, why don't you say, but I have my own problems. Excuse me, I have my own problems. Should I start listing? We have become a society that lives like that. People say, I have my own things. Should I start listing? And then there are opportunities for them to invest in the well-being of someone, and it's not even going to cost them that much. Joseph knew how to interpret dreams. So he didn't need to go and, fast for 21 days in order to interpret it. It was a gift that was already available to him. It wasn't going to cost him a lot to help those two people and bring some clarity to their confusion. And he did it. And that was what opened the door. It's very important. The second benefit of putting people first, prioritizing people, is it leads to more innovation and creativity. Now, this one I'm so passionate about, because when you put people first, you're constantly thinking about how to improve your service to humanity at whatever level. Take your workplace, for example. And I don't even actually remember or know how I came to embrace this idea in terms of how I show up at work, whether it was in my professional work, when I had a 9 to 5, or now in my business. But I've always just thought about the fact that I am God's man on the scene. I'm an ambassador of God in that place. Same way Jesus Christ went about solving problems. The Bible literally puts it and says that, destroying the wicked works of Satan. But if we put it in like modern language, we're saying solving problems. Solving the problems of humanity. There was nowhere Jesus went that was like, do you know what? I don't have time for you people. I don't want to solve your problem. And he will walk away. Nope. It never happened. It never happened. Anywhere that he found that he could be of service to a human being, he always showed up and he came up with creative ideas. So when you put people at the heart of your ambition, if people actually form the bedrock of your personal ambitions, whether in the workplace or business or whatever, creative, ingenious ideas will come to you, because remember, God is the source of good ideas, great ideas, ingenious ideas, and he prioritizes human beings above everything else. God puts people at the top of the food chain. And I've realized that early on in my career, I just had this idea that when I see problems, I'm not going to moan and complain. I may moan and complain a little bit for a short while, but then something inside me will wake up again. I say, come on, you're God's man on the scene. And I will then engage. I will start praying that God, give me ideas, or send ideas, whether it's through me or somebody else. We need to solve this problem. We need to elevate people's experience, the human experience in this place. As a teacher, I would see children that were literally just misbehaving, and I would see that these children, you're heading to a point where you're going to leave school with no GCSEs. You're going to leave school and you're not going to do well. Or this behavior you have is going to jeopardize your future at some point. And I would literally pray and ask for ideas. How can I speak to this child? What should I say to them? How can I teach them differently? Why? Because I put people at the top of the food chain. So if you're somebody that carries people in your heart, honestly, you will never want for creative ideas. But you know how a lot of us show up, particularly in the workplace? People are just there to collect salary. People are just there to quote and unquote earn a living. And because of that, they walk by problems and they close their eyes and say, that's not my business. And as a result of that, they're shut off from creative ideas, because this is how I picture God. I picture it as if God is literally on the lookout. He's like perched at the edge of his seat. Like, who is going to take this creative idea? Oh, human beings are suffering in this place. I have so many resources and ideas, creativity to help alleviate the suffering of humanity. And he's waiting, like, who is going to cry out to me? And Christians are all about get the house, get the car, get the visa, get the whatever. And unbelievers are crying out. They may not say they're crying out to God, but they are crying out and saying, no, this isn't right. Human beings should not be living like this. And God is channeling all the creative ideas to them. And you wonder why the most successful people in the world today don't even acknowledge God. They don't even acknowledge him. Say they're atheists. But check well. Those people, not all of them, because some are driven purely by personal ambition that's even satanic on some levels. But the majority of them are driven by just this idea to serve. And when you serve, you get more success, and success also means a financial rewards. So don't be eyeing people that say, they're the richest people in the world and say, where is all that money coming from? It's Satan's money. It's not Satan's money. It's because they're solving problems. Okay. When we are focused on solving problems that matter to people, we're more likely to come up with new and innovative solutions. For example, some of the most successful companies in the world, such as Google and Airbnb, were founded by people who were driven by a desire to make an impact on the world. How can you live a life of purpose if you're not all about helping people solve problems? Think about the world today without Google. Try and imagine it. But they looked at it and said, oh my goodness, when people want to find out information, they have to go and buy a set of encyclopedia, which is already outdated by the time the salesman comes to deliver the books to you. And they started to think, they started to push, say, how can we solve this access to information problem? And look at where we are today. A third reason is putting people first. Actually, scientific research shows can make you healthier. Studies have shown that people who have strong social connections and who volunteer their time to help others are more likely to live longer, healthier lives. This is because social interaction reduces stress, boosts immune system, and promotes overall well-being. Honestly, you're just happy. Remember, we talked about the fact that when we serve, when we invest in the lives of people, there's an injection of life that comes into your soul. And so you're happier generally as a person. You feel fulfilled. Somebody was looking down and crying at work and you just spoke a word to encourage them. You walk away feeling like you're walking on clouds. You're just on cloud nine. You feel like, oh my goodness, that was just a privilege to be able to help that person. Even you, if you were feeling a bit frustrated with the work, but the fact that you're able to help that person, there's something it does to your soul. There's an injection of joy that comes into your soul. So these things are important. So I'm going to finish up with some very simple creative ideas, and I'll just list them that you can begin to prioritize people in your everyday life. Simple ways. I've talked about the heavy ones, like creative ideas, making sure that you are solving problems. That's one of the biggest ones. If you show up in this world as somebody who wants to solve the problems of humanity at the level that you're at. So it's interesting that some people have these grand dreams and say, my purpose is to eradicate poverty from the whole of Africa, or to eradicate poverty from whatever. And there's a cousin that is suffering, that does not have a job, and his family barely eating. He said, no, what's my, you should go and go. No, that the level that you're at, what can you do to solve that problem? What can you do? It's not always about giving money. Could you invest your time to sit with that person 30 minutes every day or once a week to help them get that job they need, whatever it may be? You see problems at work. Have you ever cried out to God in prayer to say, this company is not profitable, yet they're paying my salary. My salary is complete at the end of every month. How can we make it profitable? And you bend your knees in intercession, right, for the leaders. And you pray that there's a breakthrough that will come. How many of us Christians are doing that? All our prayers are bigger car, bigger house, visa, this one, that one. It's amazing. Not knowing that when you pray for the intangibles, like creative ideas, it will effortlessly supply all these things that people are, I was going to say, wasting. But I suppose prayer is never wasted. But people are spending all that time praying for the tangibles. When if you pray for the intangibles, for the grace, for creative ideas, it will effortlessly produce the tangibles. Which is why Jesus says, seek ye first the kingdom. And all these other things that people are chasing after will be chasing after you. So some simple ways that you can literally begin to put people first, to practice this in your daily life. The first one is practicing small acts of kindness and generosity. One of the things that I appreciate and love the most about the British culture is this. Simple things like holding the door for someone or letting them go ahead in a line. You can criticize British people as much as you like, but there's just something about the culture where small acts of kindness, where they put people first. Put people first. They say, oh, you haven't worked for a while. We're going to send you some money to at least make sure you can heat your home and buy groceries. Some people may even criticize that and say, they should go out and work now. Will some people take advantage of that? 100%. Human nature, remember? Human nature is to be selfish. So there'll be some selfish people that rather than think of, let me go and work so I can contribute to the pot to help people that genuinely need it, I'm just going to sit down and collect benefit. Of course, you have people like that. But if there's a culture that is so people conscious, that they'll think if somebody cannot help themselves in this season of their lives, we're going to step in as a nation to help them. My goodness, these are biblical principles. All that gra. Say you can never go. In fact, some of the things that we picked up living in parts of Africa and Nigeria especially, because Nigerians like gra. In fact, if you're being kind, people say you're a mumu. Meaning you're stupid. I don't know if that's a direct translation. But like you're being a dunce. You're just letting people take advantage of you. You have to fight. You have to push people out of the way. No, you should not do that. You have to start cultivating. And one of the things that I particularly started to cultivate when I moved to the UK, when I started living here, was I noticed how these people live. I noticed how they're polite. I noticed how they're very quick to say sorry. I noticed how people would just literally, you're driving on the road, they don't need to stop. They see you standing there, they will literally wait and say, you can go. So I started to practice that until it became my own culture too. Letting people go in front of me, saying thank you, very quick to say sorry. Do you understand? Small acts of kindness. Oh, I'm going to get a cup of tea. Do you want one? Small acts of kindness. Say, if you're thirsty, what's my own? That's anti-Christian. Okay, so let's move on from that. The second one is volunteering your time for a cause that you care about. One of the biggest deceptions in this world we're living in is we have somehow received or embraced this lie that we don't have time. It's not true. If I wish they could actually, like a bot that will follow you around for 24 hours and record how you're spending your time, you will realize that you have plenty of time, especially when it's only a fraction of that time that you only need to help somebody, like 20 minutes conversation with somebody. Oh, but I don't have time. It's not true. It is not true. You have time. But if you don't put people at the top of the food chain, you will keep telling yourself, I just don't have time. I just don't have time. It's not true. You do have time. The third one is give material things. If you see somebody in need, give them of what you have, especially if you have an overflow and an abundance. But remember what I said, on occasion, even the little you have, God will still say, give out of that little you have, because he wants to bless you, because he wants to multiply more back to you. He wants you to prosper. So he's going to, at some point, ask you to sacrifice. But you don't even, before we even get to, talking about that levels of sacrifice in everyday life, see somebody that needs something, why not? You should have a budget to say that, okay, if somebody asks me for something, it can come out of this budget. So giving doesn't have to be money, actually. It can be any kind of material possession. This is one way that we can begin to put people first. The fourth one is be a good listener, particularly in the world that we live in now. So many, you'll be shocked at how our minds are being bombarded by all sorts. Mental health, disease, illnesses, all-time high. And it's as a result of the whole isolation thing. The sense of community is almost completely depleted. People are isolated. They're left alone with their own thoughts, with their own negative thoughts, with their own anxious thoughts. And imagine what that is doing to the mind. So be the kind of person that people can come to you, that people can say, do you have a minute? That people can unburden themselves to you, right? That's putting people first. Be a good listener. When someone is talking to you, give them your full attention and really listen to what they have to say. You are valuing that person. You are valuing, and this is so common nowadays in our marriages, in our relationships with our children and so on. My husband is talking to me and I'm on my phone, right? He's like, the child is talking here on the phone. When we give people our attention, our full attention, and I know it's extreme. What I'm saying is hard because habit, we have become so trained. That thing called the phone, the smartphone. Hey, only God can help us, because that thing has become a principality. It has become a principality. That thing has wrecked homes, destroyed relationships, but we can't completely throw it away. It has come to stay. It's not going anywhere. So we have to find a way to manage our access to this thing. If somebody is talking to you, give them your full attention. Begin to practice these things. And the next one is be supportive and encouraging. One of the things that I put on my vision board a few years ago was I wanted to be chief encourager. I wanted this to be my title, my own personal title. That whenever I show up in anybody's life, I want my title to be chief encourager, chief encouragement officer, both to myself and to the people in my life. That I will always have a word of encouragement, which is hard in the sense that I'm quite visionary in my approach. I'm more likely to say, okay, you need to do this way. I can be a bit hard in the way I approach things. But I sat down and I had a eureka moment that all this pounding on people is not always going to help. You have to encourage them. You have to have a word, a soothing, a comforting word for people that will lift them up. And I consciously began to work on that. I'm still working on it. But I remind myself, you're a chief encouragement officer. So be supportive, be encouraging. Before you pound somebody and say, but I told you that thing, you don't want all these mistakes you're making. Why are you not thinking? Why don't you encourage them first? Because that person is already feeling low. Don't push people down further. How about pulling them up? And of course, the last one, and this is a surprising one, is forgive people. Be forgiving. Put people at the top of the food chain. Very quick parable that Jesus told. This guy himself, I think he owed, if you read a modern translation of the Bible, he owed about $1 million, something like that. And then he couldn't pay. And the king thought, okay, you can't pay. And the king had compassion on him. I said, okay, do you know what? You can go. I forgive your debt. You can go. And then that same day, as he was heading out, he saw a fellow servant that owed him something like $20. As in, the two amounts ridiculous. $20. And he did the same thing. He held this servant by the neck and said, pay me my money. And the servant, his fellow servant, said, I don't have it. I'm really sorry. Please have mercy. And he refused. He refused. He made that guy be thrown in prison, said, you will stay in prison until you can pay me my $20. Somebody that had literally just been forgiven a debt of $1 million. In other words, that person counted money. So they didn't think of it that the reason why the king forgave my own debt is because I'm a human being. They felt like, oh, I'm worthy of receiving mercy, but the next person is not worthy of the same mercy. Oh, no. I mean, that is so deceptive. Like, you feel like, but I deserve that job. If they give it to somebody else, you say, why did they? Hello, if you deserved it, they deserve it too. Because are we not all products of God's mercy? Are we not all? Are you trying to tell me that you have never received anything in your life that you didn't deserve? So if you got things that you didn't deserve, why should somebody else not get things that they don't deserve? Why fight them? Why try to sabotage them because you feel like they didn't deserve it? Why did they get that job? So not putting people first and being self-centered is thinking that you are deserving of something, but the next person is not deserving of it. And that thing got that guy into trouble because the king said, okay, no problem. The thing that you two didn't deserve, I'm taking it back from you. You're going to be locked up in prison. So be forgiven. Everybody makes mistakes. Be willing to forgive others just as you would want to be forgiven if you made a mistake. Think of yourself and say, if I put myself in this person's shoes, how would I want people to respond to me? How would I want to be treated? And then go ahead and do the same. Okay, so I'm going to give you a wrap there, and I'll be back in the next episode as we continue to talk about purposeful living. This is Olaume Bridway.